Welcome to VMblog's coverage of KubeCon CloudNativeCon 2025 Europe, taking place in London. And today, I have the pleasure of having Anirban Sengupta, Chief Technology Officer at Aviatrix, with me, and David Marshall of VMblog, and I'm Brian Ducharme. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
For people who haven't heard of Aviatrix, maybe you can kind of kick things off by introducing the company and giving us a quick overview.
Yeah, so Aviatrix is around 10-year-old company, and we are the only secure networking company which was built specifically for cloud from grounds up. Our whole architecture, right, we designed it so that it is best suitable for cloud. And we provide infrastructure, which is what we call it as the cloud network and security platform, right, which provides a secure fabric for workloads to run at scale and with security, governance, and compliance. And the simplicity of it is that we try to make sure that our developers and our DevOps professionals, they don't have to think about security and connectivity and compliance and governance. They can just build out their applications and provide value to their customers, right? While all the key governance and security is taken care of underneath. We also started a new product, which is called the Kubernetes Firewall. We just released it just last week, right? And we are going to showcase it in KubeCon, which provides the similar secure fabric for our Kubernetes workload, because that is what is powering a lot of the new applications and the Gen AI applications. And that is crucial for developers to use and the platform admins to provide the security and the compliance that is needed for Gen AI apps.
Now, we're here obviously today talking about KubeCon CloudNativeCon Europe. It's coming up. But so for a KubeCon attendee who might be listening to this video ahead of the show, can you talk about what specific problems they might be facing that your company solves for them?
Yeah, so at KubeCon, we are showcasing the Kubernetes Firewall from Aviatrix. And the thing is that there are the Kubernetes deployments have taken over and is scaling and going up. So it's 10 years. Last year was the 10 years of the Kubernetes journey, right? And most big and small enterprise customers have been adopting it, and they're deploying new applications on Kubernetes, whether it is on cloud like EKS, AKS, GKE, and others, or it is on-prem, right? Wherever it is, right? Most of these applications the new applications are being deployed on Kubernetes. Also, there is this whole wave of application modernization. So a lot of applications are being modernized through Kubernetes, right? So whatever ran on VMs and other platforms, right? They are being or moved to Kubernetes into containers, and this has created a huge uptick of Kubernetes usage. But if you look at how Kubernetes was developed, actually, I used to run some of the engineering of GKE, Google Kubernetes Engine, right? And what I saw there is that a lot of the Kubernetes was built agnostic to the security and the networking underneath. So they were kind of two ships at night because they didn't really interact together, right? So it created certain issues at scale, which Aviatrix really tries to solve. So one of the key things like everybody has heard about is about IP address exhaustion, right, and overlap. Kubernetes is kind of IP address hungry, and also the IP addresses and the dynamic and the IP addresses are used dynamically. So what happens is that the IP address, particular IP address, can be used for pods or nodes as it needs, and it dynamically scales up and down, which causes ephemeral IP address usage. So that's one of the key pieces that we solve. The second part is about egress security, right? So, like today, enterprise runs very high value applications in Kubernetes, right? Including GenAI apps, model generation, right? And inferences. But the thing is that if there is a breach, right, all that high value assets can be easily taken away, right? And it can be exfiltrated from the Kubernetes clusters. So we provide solution for egress security. And also number three is we provide governance help with east-west or segmentation of the network. For example, we provide through the firewall, we provide governance like prod clusters or prod pods cannot talk to dev ones, right? So these are the three key areas, right? We help to secure the Kubernetes solutions or deployments, whether it is the IPs are overlapping or not. Number two, we help with egress security. And number three, we help with east-west network segmentation for governance.
Now at the show, there's going to be a lot of vendors there showcasing their technologies and solutions. On the show floor, what do you feel is your key thing that you makes you set apart? What differentiates you and your technology from others in the security field?
Yeah, so this is our third KubeCon conference, which we are attending. So we had a lot of learnings from even the past one. So the key part, and I joined the last one also, and the key part which we provide is that there are two types of community who comes into KubeCon. So one is that it's fundamentally developers conference, right? So the developers are the ones who join. And the other part which is happening for large enterprise is the container or the Kubernetes platform admin. Now, the developers want to really deploy applications fast. And the platform admin's job is to make sure that those deployments are secure, they have governance, and they have compliance. Now, what is happening over time is that these two are at odds because developers have to wait for the security guys to check off or check mark, and it takes weeks. I have talked to customers, for them, it takes 2 to 4 weeks for the developers to deploy anything. And every time they make a change, they have to again go back to the platform admins and the security admins to figure out that their applications are secure. So the key part which we are providing, right, which is very differentiating for our KubeCon delegates is to provide that high velocity deployment, right, with inbuilt governance, security, and compliance, right? So the platform admins and the security admins, they can set up the guardrails and all the secure deployment, and the developers can, and the DevOps, they can just deploy, and automatically it will make sure that all the guidelines from the security admin are being taken care of. So what we call is, it is velocity with safety.
Now, Brian and I are extremely excited to come visit the Aviatrix booth at KubeCon this year. Unfortunately, we won't be there, in London to do so. But every time we've seen you guys at the show, it's been great, and you gave us a really good rundown of your technology. So, if we could, maybe sticking with that discussion around the Aviatrix technology, what specific feature or innovation that you guys have recently done will be highlighted at your booth this year for KubeCon attendees?
Yeah, so the key part which is differentiating for our implementation, right, from architectural point of view, is the separation of management plane, control plane, and the data plane. Right, so we have a unified management plane, which I call it as a single pane of control or single pane of glass, right? The second part is we have a distributed control plane, which is multi-cloud. So it runs on every cloud and on-prem and edge, because nowadays with Gen AI application, edge has become really, really important. And the last part is a distributed data plane. So what we really do is with our distributed control plane, right, we attach to all clusters in every cloud and also on-prem and in edge, right? And we use event-based mechanism to sync the whole Kubernetes state, right, into our distributed control plane. The second part, which is really differentiating, is that we provide intent-based policies. So the security admin can set those policies once, right, in a declarative fashion, right? And it would be as new workloads are deployed or the Kubernetes clusters scale and shrink, right? It's automatically going to make sure that those intent-based policies are really enforced, right? And last but not the least is the distributed data plane, where the control plane calculates and computes, right, the intent-based policies to the real enforcement rules, right, and the control plane sends it out to every component of the distributed data plane, and we can have data plane components in like many thousand, like 5,000 plus, right, from scale perspective, and it can just sync that in few seconds, right, so that there is enforcement based on those dynamic changes of the Kubernetes clusters. So three things which is really important: centralized management plane with intent-based policies. Number two is multi-cloud distributed control plane, right, which can collect data, right, from event-driven Kubernetes clusters. And then it can really calculate the real rules from the intent, right, in matter of seconds. And the last part is the distributed scalable data plane, where the controller goes and pushes those rules in many thousands of endpoints or PEPs, the policy enforcement points, right, so that it can be immediately enforced from the data plane perspective.
Now, at the show, AI has been a big thing where people are talking about AI, and that's kind of a trend that I'm seeing across. Everybody is interested in it. But what other key trends are you seeing taking shape in 2025 and beyond? And how is your roadmap being aligned with these developments and changes in the environment?
Great question. Thank you. So, how, from the vantage point of Aviatrix, because we have many 500 plus customers who are using our product heavily, right? And then we have some more which is also coming up as prospects and looking at our product. So, one of them is that if you see that how new applications are being built, they are completely distributed. So earlier, most applications were built in one cloud, so to speak. But now, with best of breed AI model data being generated in edge, it has become a kind of a mesh architecture for applications, right? Because the data is generated somewhere, the models are somewhere, the serving is somewhere else, and the applications can run somewhere else, right? And the second part is that these are all, much of the data is also PII, right? And they need to be secure. There are medical records, there are credit card information. All of these needs to be secure end to end, right? So that there is no breach. It also helps to stop exfiltration, right? So all these high value models and high value data that is being generated in these applications, right? They can be easily in seconds be exfiltrated. And that is what we also stop. So we need a full, what we call it, a secure fabric end to end, right? It's an end-to-end secure fabric which is needed. And if you really look at Kubernetes adoption, right, those are the high value targets for bad actors. And if you really look at it, nowadays, unfortunately, like there is bad actors from even nation states, right? If you have looked at something like Salt Typhoon, right? So these are nation states trying to extract data from these high value assets, right? So overall, what I tell enterprise, right, is number one is embrace multi-cloud, right? Because every cloud has the provide the value, and it would help your developers to provide that value for the company. Number two is invest in security and networking, right? Secure network is the basis, right, to start from, so that enterprise can stop these security breaches, they can stop the losses, and also on top of that, the reputation is at stake. And last but not the least is that let the developers build fast. Developer velocity is crucial for getting ahead in business, right? And if the enterprise doesn't have the infrastructure to increase developer velocity, they not only can't provide enough value or high value to the business, right? They also feel frustrated and they leave the company, right? So the frustration and the value add is crucial, and hence the enterprise should spend and understand how to make developers go fast.
Now, Brian alluded to it a bit earlier. There are going to be a lot of booths, a lot of vendors showcasing their technology at KubeCon. And, thinking of that without, asking you, it's hard to boil the ocean. But, for attendees who do come by your booth, what is that one message that you'd like an attendee to take away after visiting your company's booth that they bring back with them to their organization?
Yeah, so the key thing from the booth, what we are showcasing as the highest one, and it is the newest technology which we GA'd, it's the Kubernetes Firewall, right? So the key message is that when enterprise are building out and deploying these clusters, right? Fundamentally, they need to be able to scale it and they need to be able to secure it, right? These are the two. It's scaling the Kubernetes cluster securely, right? Needs to be built into the product, right? And that is where the Aviatrix Kubernetes Firewall really shines, right? And that is one thing they need to look at, right? Is scaling Kubernetes clusters safely so that the developers are able to deliver at high velocity. And our um, Kubernetes Firewall is built just to do that.
And would it be possible for us and our VMblog viewers to get a quick demo of the product?
Yes, of course. So we have a small showcase for the video. This is where we show that we have Kubernetes clusters deployed in EKS, AKS, as well as GKE, and also we have on-prem, right? And we provide a full topology and a mesh of these clusters. And then what we show is customers can have declarative policies. For example, it says that the Kubernetes node can only reach something like a service like Datadog, right? And or it can just say that that these pods, right, can only go to say HashiCorp, or it can only go to Kubernetes, right? So it also, and then number three, it shows that how to do segmentation of network. So it can say that my prod pods can only talk to prod pods or services, right? Or we also can segregate based on namespaces. So it can say that this application namespace cannot talk to any other application namespace, right? So the demo basically shows that how to add declarative rules, intent-based rules and policies, right? So that it can help with egress security, right? Going to different websites. And number two, it can show that how to do network segmentation, right? So that the policies and the governance, right, is taken care of. And last but not the least, how it scales dynamically, right? And as you do kubectls to increase the number of replicas, or if the pods and the nodes go up and down in scale, right, the policies are rightly enforced in the policy enforcement points.
Well, great. Let's take a look.
Hello, and welcome to this quick demo where I'll show you how Aviatrix integrates with your Kubernetes clusters to provide dynamic segmentation and secure egress for your multi-cluster deployments. As you onboard your accounts and subscriptions, you have visibility into all of your cloud resources, which are stored in the Cloud Asset Inventory. And from here, you can see all of your virtual machines across all of your clouds. You can see your VPCs and VNets and all of your subnets and search for those. But most importantly for this demo, you can see all of your Kubernetes clusters. From this view, I can see that I have 6 Kubernetes clusters deployed. And once you onboard those clusters, you have a view into the Kubernetes resources that are deployed with them, including namespaces, services, and pods. In this example, I can see that I have multiple pods deployed as part of this cluster, and I can see that prod sales front-end web is one of those pods. Now, these resources are automatically discovered. And so as you scale up or down your resources, in this case, let's say you scale up or down your pods, you add another pod for this particular service, the prod sales front-end service, then Aviatrix will automatically detect those changes. What this allows you to do is build security policies that are dynamically updated and automatically applied to resources as they're spun up or spun down. So for example, from here, I can create a smart group based on my Kubernetes namespaces and services. And a smart group is simply a way of grouping together resources that allows you to apply security policies to those resources. But as I said, they're dynamically updated as you scale up or down. So in this case, I'll say I want to pick a namespace and a service that I want to group on. So I'm going to pick my prod front-end service, and I'm going to pick, my prod front-end namespace, and I'm going to pick my prod sales front-end service. So now I can quickly see from here, I can do a preview and I can say, okay, as I build this smart group, these are all the pods that are assigned to this particular service and namespace. Now, this will dynamically update if I scale and add more pods. And to show this, I'm going to actually go to a different view. This is already built. I'm going to go up to my groups, and I'll look at my group types. I can see that I have Kubernetes smart groups as well as other types. So I want to go down to my prod sales front-end web. And if I select this again, I can see that if my Kubernetes service equals prod sales front-end web and my Kubernetes namespace equals prod front-end, then these are the pods that are automatically discovered that match that particular service. So what happens if I scale that service so that there's multiple pods? Well, let's do that. I'll go into my Cloud Shell and I'll just show you with the kubectl command that my prod front-end service, we actually have 2 pods, one assigned to prod finance and one assigned to prod sales. So I'm going to scale my prod sales. So I'll come in and I'm going to paste in my command to set the replicas to 2 for my prod sales front-end web service. And so now if I go look at all my pods in that namespace again, I can see that now I have 2 pods that are assigned to that front-end web service. Now, if I go back to my smart groups page, I'll just refresh the browser so that I can look at the latest information. And I'll see here that now there are 2 pods that are automatically assigned to that service and part of this smart group. So now, as I've scaled up, I'm applying the same security policies to all those resources within that service. And so now I don't have to worry about, as my services scale up or down, I add pods, delete pods, the security policies will automatically follow. And so to show how that works, I'm going to go and I'm going to show you another concept we have called web groups. So the smart groups are going to be kind of the source and the destination for our policies. The web groups is where we can, as we talk about secure egress, come in and we can specify what domains do we want to allow our resources to access. So for example, all of our dev domains are allowed to access kubernetes.io, and you can see that our prod domains, we're going to give access to cncf.io and aviatrix.com. So those are the groups, those are the groups that we've built. And now let's go look at the policies. So if I look at my policies here, I can see that I have a policy that if my source is any of these particular dev smart groups, and so these are automatically pulling in all of my Kubernetes clusters and namespaces and services that I have marked with dev. And if the destination is the public internet, then I'm going to allow my dev domains. And if you recall, we're allowing just that single domain to be seen, that kubernetes.io. So now I can come to my front-end web egress, and I can see that kubernetes.io is allowed, but all the other domains are blocked. And that's based on that policy that we have there. And so it works the same. I showed you, for example, the prod, that we are allowing different domains, aviatrix.com and cncf.io. So those are allowed, and all other domains are blocked. And so this is the way to quickly apply policy to all of your resources, and it could be unique per resource type. It could be each service could have its own unique policies, or each namespace, or however you want to granularly apply policy. Now, the other aspect of this is just to show the dynamic nature of it. If I come back to my groups and I go to web groups, I'm going to edit this web group, and instead of just allowing kubernetes.io, I'm going to allow hashicorp.com. And I'm going to save that. And so now any of my resources that I've tagged with my dev services going to the internet, I'm going to allow them to speak not only to kubernetes.io, but to hashicorp.com. And so I can see that if I come back to my dashboard and I look, I'm going to pick one of my dev dashboard instances, and I'm going to say, okay, the egress here, I'm going to do a refresh so that we can get the latest updates, and we'll see that now hashicorp.com is allowed to talk to the internet. And that all happened dynamically and quickly and applied across multiple clusters, across multiple clouds. And then finally, I want to show you segmentation, not just to the internet, but segmentation between your clusters. So if I go back to my policies, I can see that I have policies built to allow my dev sales front-end web to talk to my dev sales backend API, and my prod sales front-end web to my prod backend sales backend API. And the same, I have dev finance and prod finance front ends and backends. And it's just allowing the front end to talk to the backend. Everything else is default denied. And so if I go back to my dashboard here, I'll look at my dev sales front end web, and it can talk to my dev sales backend API, but all other communication is blocked, including to other dev resources. I've only explicitly allowed that communication. And the same, if I look at my prod finance front end web, for example, it's going to be able to talk to my prod finance backend API, and all other communication is blocked. So this allows you to start down your journey on zero trust segmentation, as you only allow explicitly the domains you want to allow on the internet, and you only allow that east-west communication between services that you explicitly want to allow, and everything else gets denied. So that completes our demo on how Aviatrix can help you segment and secure your egress on your Kubernetes clusters, especially in a multi-cluster environment across multiple regions, across multiple clouds, multiple cluster types. It doesn't matter. And thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for providing us with that great demo. And we, at VMblog, we highly recommend, if you're at KubeCon CloudNativeCon this year, make sure you go by the Aviatrix booth and check them out for yourselves. But for the folks who aren't able to attend the show, but they want to learn more about Aviatrix and the technology that you talked about, where's the best place to go for them, and what kind of things can they find?
So, first of all, I'll be there in the booth. So, for folks who are joining in London, see you in London in 3 weeks. And for folks who are not able to join, right, you guys can see all the blogs. I have multiple blogs on Kubernetes Firewall and how to scale and secure your Kubernetes deployments, right? We have demos, and you can go to aviatrix.com for all the blogs and the demos and all the information on Aviatrix Kubernetes Firewall.
Great. Well, thanks again for joining VMblog today, and we wish you a very successful event.
Thank you very much.